Have you ever wondered what it might feel like to work for the biggest chocolate manufacturer in the world? And to be honest, I imagine it every day. So if you want to be a part of the biggest chocolate manufacturer in the world, which goes by the name of Mars Wrigley, then yes, this is the video just for you. Hi friends, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will be discussing my interview experience.
Do we really have to choose him to be our next spokesperson?
Seems like a good fit.
With Mars Wrigley. So this happened almost a year ago in 2021 when Mars Wrigley in KSA posted a job for a strategic revenue manager based in their Jeddah office. The job was posted on LinkedIn. And the first thing I did was apply through LinkedIn as well as reach out to the hiring manager looking after the entire GCC region. And before I knew it, I did not get the response back from the application itself, but the manager reached out and then she arranged the first initial HR screening. So yes, that was my first round.
Round 1.
The first round of the interview was the HR pre-screening. So this round was pretty straightforward. They had the basic questions.
Do you have any special skills?
Oh, yes, I do.
Of walk me through your CV, what is your current background, why do you want to join Mars, as well as why would I want to leave my current employer. And then they gave me a bit of a background of what Mars is doing in the region and then globally. And finally, they ended the interview with the housekeeping questions like what is your notice period, salary expectation, etc, and any benefits that I might be getting. Notice here that she did not once ask me for what my current salary or package was that I was getting at my current employer. And that is where I was impressed by Mars, that yes, they're following the best practices out there. Because in my personal experience, I have seen that a lot of companies right off the bat ask you for what your current package is, and in most cases once they ask you that question, they sort of try to lowball you and lower the budget. But yes, in this case Mars did not do this at all, and I was very impressed by that. After that came the technical round.
Round 2.
And once I was informed that I had passed the first HR initial pre-screen, I was scheduled to do the technical round, which is also the second round of the interview with the hiring manager. So this round, as you can figure out from the name itself, that it is the technical round. So a lot of questions that were asked by the hiring manager revolve around the role and my current experience as it aligns with the role. So to give you an example, like she asked me what are some of the challenges that I faced in my current role. But then again, to give it a twist, she added the point of the revenue management, or you can say commercial finance, to make it more relevant. Moving from there, she asked me again, like, are there any teamwork challenges that I have faced during my current or previous employment? And then yes, she asked me to link that to how this would relate to the commercial finance side of things. And then she also asked me questions related to how I keep myself and the team around me motivated. What would my 90-day plan look like if I were to join Mars? So those are the kind of questions that she went deep dive into, and she was trying to extract as much information about my experience as she can. As you know that the technical round is considered the most difficult round of the interview because this is your make or break. Once you're past this round, in 80% of the cases, if you don't screw up the final one, you end up getting the job. And this is where the manager is also trying to determine that whether you will work along with the team and you would be able to fit in the culture of Mars, and are you the person that she or he has been looking for. And most probably in the end of this, at the end of this round, they will ask you that if you have any questions. My pro tip is that always keep your questions ready. Never pass on this opportunity to learn more about either the company or the role itself and the kind of people you will be working with. Because as important this round might be for the company, it is the same for you. You can ask the questions with the manager one-to-one, and you might not get this chance again until you have the offer in your hand. So my advice, always keep your questions ready. Some questions that I like to ask the manager at this point is like, what kind of candidate are you looking for, and what qualities would make me a successful candidate at your organization and in your team? So this actually shows you that you are very keen to join their team and you are ready and willing to improve yourself in case if you need to make some changes. Also, my other advice is to ask strategic questions, that what is the current company going to do in terms of any challenges that they might be facing. And you can prepare yourself very well for this question by just doing a Google search and looking at what the company is going through globally. Are there any issues that they faced either in your region that you might be able to solve? So this shows that you have an interest and you have sort of a background of what the company might be working on. and you can pose a question in a way that once he starts telling you what are the challenges they're facing, you can also provide the solution. So this will show the hiring manager that you have a very proactive approach. So coming back, never pass on the opportunity to ask questions and try to learn as much as you can about the company during that time. Finally, the third round,
Final round.
I was called for was the case study panel interview. And to be honest, for me, the case studies and panel interview are always the most difficult ones. So as opposed to a one-to-one interview where you are just dealing with one person and you can give your entire attention to them, in a panel interview, if there are 3 to 4 people, you have to give your attention to each one. And specifically for Mars Wrigley, they had 4 people. We had the strategic revenue director for the region. We had the global strategic revenue director for the MENA region of Mars. We had the HR business partner for the entire MENA region of Mars. And then we had the sales director who's looking after the entire KSA and GCC functions. So the interview was structured in a way that the first half of the interview was for the case study, and they would send you the case study, you would solve the case study, and then you had to prepare a PowerPoint presentation, and I was given an hour and 15 minutes to complete that. Once I had completed the presentation, I had to send that to the HR manager, and then from there on, you would get a 10 to 15 minutes break, and then the interview would start with the panel. The first thing that the panel would focus on is your case study, and then from there on they will move towards asking you some questions. But at this point, since you have already managed to pass the technical round, they would just ask you questions that are more towards your behavior
Pooja, what is this behavior?
and your competencies. So now my advice for the case study interview is that, first of all, never ever take the case study for granted. Practice as much as you can.
Practice makes perfect.
The problem that I face with case study interviews is that they can be very ambiguous. Since I was coming from a finance background, what I ended up doing was that I solved the entire case study and revolved everything around the financials.
It's 30 days late, 60 days late.
And the P&Ls. Whereas after failing the interview, I realized that this is something that they were not asking for, and what they wanted me to do was that give them an entire pricing strategy. So that is why I always say that try to understand what the company is about, you are supposed to do in the role you are applying for. And one tip that I've learned since then is that always try to solve the case study by matching it with the job description. So if you are given a similar case in your job that you are applying for, how would you solve that case study? So rather than solving it in a way that you think you should be doing it, compare it with the job description and then go from there. And I've applied this same tip in another interview with Deloitte, which I will be making a video on in the future, and I can tell you that I passed that case study interview. So in the end, some tips that I would like to share with the candidates who might be thinking to apply to Mars Wrigley or any other company of a similar nature is that whenever you're sending your CV, try to amend it according to the job description. So don't have a one base format of your CV and then share that for all the jobs that you're applying for. Always try to amend the CV and highlight your achievements that are most aligned with the job description. Second thing, during your interviews, if you have a ton of experience, whenever they ask you specific questions, don't just tell them exactly what you've done, but then again, come back to the role and the company and then amend your experiences accordingly. And there are certain parts of your job that you might have done in not a very extended format, but since you've already done that thing and that is what the company might be looking for, my advice is to enhance those experiences more as compared to the other ones. So you have to gauge the situation according to what the interviewer is asking you and what the company is all about, especially if you're applying for companies which are coming from different industries. And finally, at any of the rounds of the interview, if they ever ask you, do you have any questions, always keep your questions ready and prepared and try to learn as much as you can about the company and the role that you're applying for. A couple of things that I'd like to add for organizations and Mars Wrigley in particular based upon this interview experience is that they can definitely improve their processing and response time to the candidates. One thing that I really struggled with during the entire interview was that this whole process took more than 3 months until I found out that I was rejected for the job. A lot of times it was very frustrating because I was waiting for them to respond, and as a candidate you're always over the edge. You're always checking your phone, checking your emails that they might have emailed you or responded to you, or you might have missed that. And I get that a lot, especially when I'm waiting to hear from one of the prospect employers. But yeah, so my advice to Mars Wrigley is that try to work on the processing time. The other thing is that once a candidate has reached the final round, it is very much appreciated if they can get a personalized feedback. I do understand that companies like Mars Wrigley get a lot of candidates who are applying for this job, and it's not easy to respond to each and every one. But I do know that once you've reached the final round, it's only 2 to 3 candidates who are competing against each other. So I don't think it's very hard to respond to if you're rejecting 2 of those candidates with what they can improve or why did they fail the interview. And again, coming back to my Deloitte interview, this is what they had exactly done. They had gotten back to me with how I can improve myself in the future and what went wrong during the interview and during which round. So that is something that candidates appreciate a lot, because now I know what I have to work on in case if I plan to apply again. I know it's very difficult once you have the final round and you have 5 people who are like among the leaders of the organizations and their time is highly valuable. But yes, I do believe that if HR and the hiring manager work efficiently, this can definitely be improved. And the feedback does not have to come back from each one of the panel members. Coming from the hiring manager would be more than enough, because they would know exactly why this candidate was being rejected. So guys, that was my experience with the Mars Wrigley interview. And if you like these kind of videos, please do let me know in the comment section below so I can share more experiences with international organizations that I've had and how I interviewed with them and whether I passed or got rejected. And if you like the content on the channel, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Also, you can check out my video on how you can improve your LinkedIn on top 3 LinkedIn strategies right here. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.